So grab your workbook and open to page 34. Is anyone missing a workbook? No. Okay. Oh, this might be all over. Okay. Thank you. Okay. What is the word? What is the word that means perfectly matching? Perfectly matching is complementary. This is page 34. Only complementary bases can pair with each other. And do you remember the bases that pair? Who pairs with who? A pairs with T and G pairs with C. Excellent. And this is called the rule of complementary base pairing. Okay. And we have a little picture down at the bottom of the apple in the tree and the car in the garage. And by using this complementary base pairing rule, we can figure out, if we're given one strand, we can figure out what its complementary strand will be. So if we are given, if this strand here is DNA, and this is the complementary strand of DNA, I would like you guys to try and figure out what the other side is. What is that complementary strand? See if you can write them in before we do it together. Page 35. On page 35, we are trying to write down what the complementary bases are. So right here, we have an A, so what would we write? T. Okay, so see if you can do it before we all do it together. Thank you, Oscar. Okay, so we got A goes with T, G goes with C. What comes next? A. Next, C, then G, A, T, and G. Is that pretty straightforward, pretty easy? Okay. What do we call this sequence of letters? The sequence of letters is the genetic code, yes. We should also know the word complementary strand. Okay. Now, there is a new word that you've probably heard in real life, and that new word is gene. Gene, G-E-N-E. And a gene is a particular sequence of bases that codes for one particular protein, okay? A gene codes for a particular protein. And we should already know that the genetic code is read 3 bases at a time. In DNA, we call these sets of 3 bases a triplet. And each triplet codes for one what? Amino acid. So here is our DNA strand. And if it reads AGT, then that means one amino acid. GCT is a different amino acid. TAC is yet a different amino acid. So maybe we have serine, maybe we have glutamic acid, and maybe we have cytosine. Nope. Serine, glutamic acid, phenyl. Ooh, I'm trying to think of a short one. What's a good one? Phenylalanine. You do not need to write these down. Those are just examples of amino acids. You do not need to know their names. I haven't even got the code right. I don't know what the ones are for those actual codes. I'm just making them up, okay? Those are actual names of amino acids, but you don't need to know them. Okay, what does this have to do with a protein? A gene is the sequence of bases that give the instructions to make a particular protein. The amino acids, and hopefully this is review, the amino acids are the building blocks from which proteins are made. What's another way that we could say building blocks? Starts with an M. Monomers. Okay? So the amino acids are monomers, and the protein is the polymer. Here's a very simplified version of how this works. The cell reads the DNA sequence. Of course, it really reads the RNA, but it reads it as a series of triplet codes. So this whole thing would be the gene. And each triplet code gives you one amino acid. So this triplet code gives you this amino acid. The next triplet code gives you a different amino acid. And then finally, it just carries on all the way across with each different triplet code giving you a different amino acid. What do we call all of the amino acids stuck together before it folds up? That is called a polypeptide. So this here is the polypeptide. And then it folds up into a protein. Hopefully there's nothing in here that's particularly new. Yeah, I think this is all stuff that we've sort of looked at already, a little bit anyway. Now, what is important about the shape of a protein? That determines its function. So, if you have a different shape, it has a different function. So the shape tells us their function or their jobs. And now we're going to learn about 3 main roles of proteins. This will be new. Okay, this part is new. One of the main roles is enzymes. Sorry, are we good? Okay. Enzymes are biological catalysts. Are you guys like paying any attention at all over there, or what's happening? You're not going to write it down? Okay. Enzymes are biological catalysts. Now, what the heck is a catalyst? Has anyone heard of catalyst before? Catalyst. Okay. A catalyst is a substance that speeds up chemical reactions. So let's imagine that you were to eat a hamburger and there were no enzymes in your digestive tract. It would just pass through and come out as a bit chewed, but basically you would be passing just chewed up hamburger. Okay? Which doesn't sound particularly lovely. Okay? What we want is, as these things go through our body, we want the foods to break down. We want them to get chomped up. Now, they will break down over time, but that could take hundreds or thousands of years. Do you have hundreds or thousands of years to digest your food? No. So wouldn't it be nice if there were something that could speed up that process? And those things that speed up, say, breaking down of food is called a catalyst. And catalysts that are in your body are called enzymes. Okay, so catalysts speed up reactions, speed up chemical reactions. And enzymes are just catalysts that are found in the body. And enzymes do all sorts of different things. They're not just restricted to, chewing up your food, but there's enzymes that in your cell that will actually cause the DNA. There's enzymes that make the RNA copies of the DNA. Okay, they assemble all the little RNA nucleotides into the RNA molecule. There are enzymes that will, produce a new, what are some other enzymes? I can't think of any offhand, but that's okay. All right. Hormones. Hormones carry messages around the body. You guys have heard of hormones, yes? Okay. Some hormones are made of protein, and they carry messages around the body through the bloodstream. There are also structural proteins, and they literally form the structures of things. So if you're like, what is my fingernail made of? It is made of keratin, and keratin is a protein. Yeah? What's my skin made of? There's a lot of elastin in there. There's also some keratin in your skin. And there's some other proteins. Those are structural proteins. Collagen is a protein. There are also a couple of other roles. So we could list them as 4 and 5. 4 is antibodies. Tell your partner what antibodies do you think? What do you think of when you hear the word antibody? Antibody. Which body system do antibodies work in? It works in your, starts with an I, your immune system, yeah. So antibodies work for the immune system. And you should also know the word pigments. Do you guys know what a pigment is? It's a color, yeah, exactly. So the reason your eyes are brown or green or blue or hazel is because there are different colored pigments in your eyes, okay? So a pigment is a color. And finally, there are transport proteins, because how do you think the glucose, like if your body digests some sugar and you get these little glucose molecules going through your blood, how do they get into the cell? The cell has a membrane, and the sugar molecule can't just get in there, so it needs like a little transport protein to help it make through the cell membrane. Okay, so some proteins are transport proteins, so that would be 6. Okay. But if you were only going to remember 3 of them, I would say enzymes, hormones, and structural proteins are probably the big 3, and then the other 3 are very important, but, you know, we have to pick 3 that are most important. We would pick those 3. Alrighty. So we are now finished this, and you could do pages 38, 39, and 40. Next is